Welcome everyone to today's event, States of Sun and Stars, Why Inspiration Matters. My name is Marion Danzeisen and I am the Cultural Program Manager here at the German American Center in Stuttgart. And on behalf of our director, Christiane Püker, and the whole team, it's a pleasure to welcome you all. Please allow me to say a few words about this event before I hand it over to our moderator and to our distinguished guests. Today's discussion is part of the virtual event series, Eureka, Ländle Meets California, celebrating the sister state partnership between Baden-Württemberg and California. The series is a cooperation among the German American institutes in Stuttgart, Freiburg, Heidelberg, and Tübingen, and is generously supported by the State Ministry of Baden-Württemberg. In monthly events, we will explore what our two states have in common, what we can learn from each other, and how we can work together more closely. We want to initiate conversations that create new ideas and networking opportunities to strengthen the partnership between our two states. So to start things off today, Dr. Florian Stegmann, who is the chairman of the board of directors of our institute, as well as the head of the state chancellery in the Baden-Württemberg Ministry of State, would like to say a few words to you.
Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, liebe Zuschauerinnen und Zuschauer, ich freue mich, dass Sie sich zugeschaltet haben. Mein Name ist Florian Stegmann, ich bin der Vorstandsvorsitzende des Deutsch-Amerikanischen Zentrums in Stuttgart und Chef der Staatskanzlei im baden-württembergischen Staatsministerium. Mit der Veranstaltungsreihe Eureka, Ländle Meets California, aller 4 deutsch-amerikanischen Institute in Baden-Württemberg haben wir spannende Themen gefunden, die uns alle angehen. Die Landesregierung unterstützt diese Reihe sehr gerne, denn sie bringt Baden-Württemberg und Kalifornien noch näher zusammen. Beide Länder haben 2018 eine Landespartnerschaft begründet und schon zuvor gemeinsam das internationale Klimaschutzbündnis der Under Two Coalition initiiert. Uns verbinden viele Themen über den Atlantik hinweg, vom Engagement für den Klimaschutz über Hightech in der Mobilität bis zur Kultur. Diesen inspirierenden Austausch wollen wir stärken und zusammen in die Zukunft schauen. Ganz im Sinne einer lebendigen transatlantischen Freundschaft, die gerade vom Dialog der Menschen miteinander lebt. Ich wünsche Ihnen viel Freude beim Zuhören und Mitmachen. Alles Gute für den heutigen Austausch und die folgenden Veranstaltungen.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Stegmann. So what do you all have to expect from this event? So tonight is basically a reunion of 4 marvelous musicians who met each other during cultural exchanges in the 1990s that were facilitated by the Amerikahaus, the predecessor of our German American Center here in Stuttgart. We will start with a 40 to 45-minute conversation with these musicians, and afterwards we want to include all of you at home as well. So how is this going to work? You can use the Q&A and F&A button at the bottom of your screen to ask questions, and you can ask these questions either in German or in English. And we will try to get to as many questions as possible at the end of the discussion. You will not be able to use your chat, and you will also not be able to turn on your microphone or your video camera. So now let's welcome Thomas Koch, who is in fact the perfect moderator for this event, as he was the one who coordinated the musicians' exchange back in the 1990s, when he was still working at the Amerikahaus in Stuttgart. And we are so pleased that he agreed to be with us tonight. Thomas Koch himself has a close relationship to California, as he spent 1 year at the University of Berkeley in the 1980s. And he currently works as the Director of Strategic Communications at the State Opera of Baden-Württemberg in Stuttgart. And he was very crucial in bringing together this event. So without any further ado, I would like to hand it over to you, Thomas, and want to wish everyone a very happy and good discussion.
Okay. Thank you, Marian, and welcome to my guests of today's conversation about the new partnership between Baden-Württemberg and California. It's a great pleasure that the German American Institute chose an event that goes back 27 years to commemorate and to start an event with a video series to promote a closer connection and a closer dialogue between the two states. Let me introduce briefly our guests for tonight's show. And we have on the California side, Rico Pabon. Welcome, Rico, to this conversation. We have Adiza Banjoko, and we have AK Black, James Wilson, and who was one of the first visitors to Baden-Württemberg together with Rico in 1993. And we have Max Herre, welcome Max, who joined in an exchange that we started following the 1993 visit to Stuttgart in a return visit to California, to San Francisco and the Bay Area. And we will get into that, what happened at that time. And we want to look ahead and see what these experiences that we all made during that time can contribute to a more intense relationship between the two states. And we want to explore the question and the topic of what art can do to promote mutual understanding and progression in humanities in our societies that need personal relationships more than anything else. Without personal and interpersonal relationships, we can have technology, we can have progress in all fields, but we need to get a good understanding of who we are as humans and that we bring together our understanding. So when we look back at 1993 and AK Black and Rico Pabon came to Stuttgart. I think Rico was 19 at that in that year, and AK was the artistic leader of a group of an institution, Life on the Water, that founded a group, Eco Rap. Maybe AK, you want to start, and Rico, you want to start telling us how it came about that you arrived in Stuttgart and what was happening there.
Okay, I was actually the whole organization Eco Rap. I got involved with Eco Rap as a way to just get free studio time. And so as that started to evolve, there came an opportunity to go to Germany and to speak on environmental issues during that time. And just the whole thought of environment went beyond just birds and bees and trees. It also had to include the types of things that we were going through within our communities, police brutality, homelessness, schools that are being dealt with in regards to children not getting a proper education. So I thought it would be a great opportunity to see across the water what other countries are dealing with similar issues. And so I took the opportunity beyond being able to just get free studio time to explore that and see exactly who was dealing with the same types of things, and using hip hop music as a way of educating people and going beyond just having fun and doing battle raps and that type of stuff. So I found that there were people across the water that were dealing with the same types of issues that we were dealing with, and look at it as an opportunity for us to connect ideas and also to travel. I think many of us had never had an opportunity to get outside of our communities and actually see what other types of issues that people were dealing with. So it was great. It was a great opportunity, and it was really good to be able to have other people join me and join us in looking into that and seeing what we could offer and contribute.
So, AK, you gathered a group of young people that had come together under the Eco Rap label, and one of them was Rico. And who were the others? And how many were you when you came to Stuttgart at that time?
Let's see. There was MC Spice. There was myself and Rico, and there were several other people. You know, it happened so long ago that I can't remember how many people actually joined us, but probably up to between 7 and maybe 9 people that actually accompanied us over there to do the actual concerts.
Good. And then for Rico, was it the first time for you to come to Germany?
It was the first time for me to go anywhere.
Oh.
My family's from Puerto Rico, and I think I went to Germany before I even visited Puerto Rico. And a similar thing, I got involved like AK, just more as an artist looking for venues to be able to spread my art and my message and whatnot. And when what they did for us was they took us on what they called toxic tours, and they showed us in our own neighborhoods, because they had artists from different areas of from this surrounding Bay Area. And so they went to those specific areas and showed these, these young artists, these crimes that were happening, environmental racism just all around, the oil refineries and all types of dangers. And so that experience really opened my eyes. So just like AK said, it went beyond just trying to, write a song or get some free studio time or win the contest or whatever. It really struck home as something that, that needed to be at the forefront of my mind as an artist. So yeah, it was an amazing experience, especially as a young person who had not really experienced life at that point. So.
Fantastic. I remember it's kind of a curious thing that we first met at a studio stage, an open air stage in the park, because we had an international garden show going on at that time, and it was pouring rain, and there were about 6 people in the audience, and we were all pretty depressed about such a low turnout, the bad weather, but I think we all tried to do the best of it, and we went to the Jugendhaus Mitte, which is the youth center in the center of town, and because we knew there was a group of young people about your age who were having a jam session there. And so you remember coming in there, we took the car, went there, and that was the first encounter. I'm not quite sure. Max wasn't, I think, was not part of that first encounter. I think Max then went along to San Francisco the year after, but we'll come to that. So, Rico, do you remember what was the initial feeling when you entered the youth center and you met the German kids who also did hip hop and graffiti and breakdance and rap, and how did this exchange start? What was the key feeling? Did you feel apprehensive? Did you feel like, oh wow, there are German kids who are doing similar things like we do? And
yeah, it was eye-opening, I'll say again. And it was so long ago that it's hard to I remember being rained out outside that day, and I also remember going into the youth center. But what I remember was that we were outside. There was the concert, and then I didn't remember that it was rain. I remember that for some reason we had to go inside of a center, and when we got inside, what I remember was that the DJ would. It makes my hair stand up. The DJ wasn't even playing hip hop music. He was playing James Brown. Ooh. Just James Brown, and people were breakdancing. So it was more. I had to say that I was in awe of the fact that there was these German folks who were into hip hop culture. It was like, no, they weren't just into it. They were up inside of it. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, so I said for many years that Germany, the shows that I had in Germany were the best of my career. And it was just because of the appreciation, the deep appreciation of the music and of the lyrics. Whereas I feel like sometimes here, maybe because at that time, you know, it was so flooded with so much, sometimes the lyrics and everything was like background music almost. And I have to say, I remember Max from that very first trip. And what stands out is that there was a group of individuals who were performers, but then I pictured them as sort of rolling together as a crew. And out of all of them, Max stood out to me. In particular, you know, this one song that he wrote, and it was from the perspective of, it was either from the or both of an immigrant and a Black person. And I'm looking at Max at that time thinking, you know, why is this person writing this? This doesn't look to be his experience, is what I'm saying as a young man. And I don't know, the empathy and the compassion that came through in the lyrics, I can't remember one word of it, but that always stayed in my heart from way back then. So I think Max, it must have been, because I remembered even, you know, an old moniker that Max used to use back in the day. So yeah, it was amazing. And I have, you know, more than that story. It was a short time, but so much happened in that small period of time. Yeah.
Well, let's switch to Max and see, Max, can you tell us more about the song that Rico refers to?
Yeah, you know, we just spoke, and I wasn't sure whether I was there that particular day, like the first encounter we ever had. So I talked to you before, Thomas, and I said, I'm not sure if I'm the one to talk about it. But as Rico says, it's a while ago, so we might mix up days and you know, and months and so. But when it comes to that song, and I really appreciate that you remember it, it was indeed a song about a person. And you must recall, this is the beginning of the 90s. There's a lot of violence towards, like, you know, migrants and you know, people who just came to the country going on. It's a new thing in Germany. We haven't had it, you know, since, you know, Second World War, and all of a sudden there's this new xenophobia going on. And I wrote, you know, also being 19, I wrote this song like about, you know, a kid walking down the street like he always does, because he's a Stuttgarter. All of a sudden he's seen as not being from the city because he looks different, you know, than like the guys who approach him. And of course, from nowadays perspective, you would say, is that something you could do as an artist, like, you know, like to write in this kind of role play? But to me, at that time, it really felt important to address that issue, and that was my way of, like, you know, really, you know, showing solidarity with everyone who's, you know, marginalized or discriminated against in the city, which was a new thing. So this was one of the first lyrics I ever wrote, actually.
Wow.
And
wow.
So it's really interesting you recall that. Yeah,
brother. Well, you know, I think I know my experience out here with rappers, with MCs who are, and I'm speaking ignorantly, Max. I know nothing about, as far as I'm concerned, I look at you, you look like you could be from Puerto Rico. You know, you look like 10 of my cousins, right? So I'm speaking as a 19-year-old who was trying to wrap my head around the fact that all Germans aren't necessarily, you know, there are many people who migrated there, right? Many different, you know, colors and you know, who all claim German the way that we say, well, we're American, though we have roots everywhere else, you know. But yeah, you know, it always stayed in my mind, the empathy and the compassion, and also this thing that you weren't trying to fit in with
Yes, I remember
anything. Yes. You were just being you. You were a journalist, right? And I think from my experience with rappers who are not Black or who are not of the African diaspora, they try to like pretend. They try to put a costume on, or they tried to, and I didn't feel that from you. So it just felt very authentic, and it was refreshing, and it was brand new because I wasn't used to it. I was expecting like a young Black teenagers. So I don't know if you guys even remember that group.
Nah,
like
they're not gonna remember Young Black Teenagers. Young Black Teenagers was a white rap group. Young Black Teenagers was a white rap group.
No, I don't.
So that's how you
co-righteous teachers. Right, that's what I remember.
There you go. There you go. Exactly. So that
it's funny you say that, because of course we were very influenced, by African American culture. And the funny thing is, that time I was, wearing the suits my father, had put away because I'd seen Mo Better Blues and these kind of movies.
I remember those jackets. I used to be like, Max dress hella fresh. What is this?
It was like, okay,
I'm out here in cross colors, and Max is like,
a jazz cat or so. But yeah, of course, we were all really influenced, and it was the beginning of rap music, German rap music. It wasn't the beginning of hip hop as a culture, but for us MCs it was, and of course it was like really kind of a pioneer kind of atmosphere to see how we could transfer the music and culture that we loved and so much, and bring like our language and our stories to it without losing path of what the culture originally was, but sort of like translating the topics that I don't know Public Enemy would dress for their environments into something that we'd say, okay, this is something we understand, like how hip hop and rap music is used, but still we have to bring our own narratives to it.
When we talk about narrative, just one question in between is the attribute, the social consciousness rap is to that kind of rap you've been doing. And then when we look at Adisa, let me switch to Adisa, he has a very interesting approach because he's working as a journalist, and at the same time, Rico, you said you regarded Max as a journalist because rap is a form of journalism in telling, in having the narrative of the community, of the neighborhood, and telling these stories that AK you mentioned about the environmental issues beyond the bees and the rest of it.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I was going to say what's deep about rap music is that also, you're given, Adis being a journalist, really a friend of mine, but you're also given, between 3 to 5 minutes to tell a whole story, to write a book, so within a short period of time, you've got to go from your opening chapters to your main topic of what the discussion is to a closure. So within each song is a book within itself, so rap is a very, very deep form of artistic expression.
Exactly, and Adisa, as you the Bishop, I think you have the Bishop Chronicles as
Bishop Chronicles podcast. Go to YouTube and Spotify today.
Definitely, it's worth listening to.
Absolutely.
And Adisa, who came in later, we talk about this, the '94 exchange when we all went to San Francisco. Adisa combined the hip hop with chess and the martial arts, and he did an exhibit about that. Perhaps can you tell us more what brought you to bringing hip hop together with chess?
Well, the thing is rap music is a beautiful art, and it's a beautiful sport, and people can be competitive, they can be emotional in these types of things. And one of the first patterns I recognized in it was the celebration of chess. And so you'll get this in chess lyrics from Public Enemy, you'll get this in chess lyrics from rap groups like EPMD, and a lot of others, like Eminem has mentioned chess, Drake has mentioned chess. It's this theme, okay, in hip hop, but it's a quiet theme. You have to be looking for it to see it. And then at the same time, martial arts in hip hop, you'll notice a lot with J. Rue the Damager. A lot of the DJs and a lot of the B-boys embodied like Kung Fu culture and Bruce Lee films and things like that. You know, the way that they danced, the way that they dressed was influenced. So I recognized these and I put it together because I was trying to use international languages, right? Things that transcended the general barriers of culture so people could have intercultural communication, right? You know, Socrates said that he was not Greek, nor was he Athenian, but he was a citizen of the world. Right. So then what does that mean? How do we become a citizen of the world? Right. We have to practice things that are beyond our nationalism, even though to some degree, all nationalism has a sense of healthy expression. Right. And so that is how I put it together. I created an organization a few years ago that I just closed because I'm starting a new organization. It was called Hip Hop Chess Federation. And so we opened at the World Chess Hall of Fame in St. Louis to a sold out crowd. I had RZA from Wu-Tang come out for that. And then in 2018, we did Respect, Hip Hop, Style, and Wisdom, which covered all kinds of things. But in part, it also covered, you know, this relationship between hip hop and chess, which I also wrote a book on that is free on hiphopchess.blogspot.com. You can get it for free, people. And so this is, you know, but this intercultural value came from my trip to Germany. I have to say that I had been to Germany before with my family for Oktoberfest when I was 15. But as a young adult, America became much more racist and much more violent. So my assumption coming to Germany was that it was going to be very racist and very violent. Me and Jim talked a lot. I was like, hey, K, man, are you sure? Like, are there going to be skinheads out there? You know, like, you know what I'm saying? I was really scared. Right? You remember that? Right? So then we got there. So then we got there, and I'll tell you the first thing that blew my mind, but I could tell you a lot.
Please go ahead.
I'll try to do the cliff notes. The first thing I remember is it was super hot, and I didn't expect it to be baking hot when we got there. We went to a drugstore because Jim wanted to get some sunscreen. So we were walking around getting some sunscreen, and there was this old couple kind of eyeballing us. And I was like, oh man, they were really old too. I'm talking about like 75, 80 years old. And I was like, why are they that? Whatever. So then I went outside, and when Jim comes out, he's talking with them, laughing. And I was like, okay, this is weird. So I walk over there, and they're like, oh, are you an artist too? I was like, oh, he must have. Oh, yeah, okay, whatever. So then they bail, and he says, you know what? The husband came over to me, and he said, my wife thinks that you have some of the most magnificent skin. Can she touch your arm? Yes. Can she touch your arm? Yes. And so he said yes. And so she touched his arm, and she said, you're such a beautiful human being, and all this other stuff. And then they took off. That was it. So then for me, I was a new convert to Islam, and my conversion to Islam in North America was largely due to Black nationalism because there was a lot of racial issues. So when I got there, among the German contingent was a graffiti writer named Koma, and he was from Chechnya, and he was a Russian Muslim. That blew my mind. Like when Malcolm X talks about going to Mecca, I often regard my trip to Stuttgart as my mini Mecca experience because I saw white Muslims. I met Turks. Remember, Jim, when we used to go to the spot, Koma took us to the lamb spot. And when they realized that we were Muslim, they would give us like triple the meat. So then when they would be like, oh, they were like, oh, you remember? And then there was that other dude, he was German. He was like, why are you giving him triple meat? They were like, shut up, man, shut up. Yeah, anyway, so extra, you know? And so this type of stuff was happening to us everywhere that we went. And I realized that my understanding of race had been warped by the American experience, that the international experience that I was having as a Black man in Europe was one of appreciation, was one of more mutual respect. You know, Max and Koma and all those dudes, they really looked out for us. They didn't just be like, oh, these guys are in town. They would come to our dressing room. They would take, oh, you guys need food. You guys need clothes. You guys need this. They really cared about us from a very genuine place. And I also remember we had a dinner, and there was a screen, and on that screen, they were playing different clips of hip hop all over the world. And so there used to be a b-boy whose name escapes me right now. May God forgive me. He was a devastating b-boy from Italy, and I already knew his name in the b-boy world. And there's a b-boy who's very popular. His name is Crazy Legs from New York. He's one of the pioneer b-boys. This guy was better than him then, right? Nobody would have said it out loud, but this guy in Italy was better than Crazy Legs then. And I was like, good Lord. I was like, international hip hop is way deeper than I thought. It was way deeper. And the appreciation was way deeper. The graffiti was better. When I went back, all my boys who were like really dope graffiti artists, I was like, Germany's killing y'all. Did you know that? Did you know Germany has way better graffiti writers than all of y'all, bro? Like it was an amazing trip. And my final and best memory, other than the show, was when we were there. It was during the Olympics. Remember, they had the Olympics. We're in California when we were out there, and the Germans were like, "Oh, do you guys play soccer?" And me and Nim, who was one of the rappers there, we played soccer all the time, but Jim never played soccer. So bodybuilder. So he was like, they were like, "Oh," I was like, "Soccer?" I was like, "Yeah, we'll absolutely murder you in soccer." And they were like, "You'll murder us? We're from Germany." And so we played this game on cement with these goals. And Jim was like, "I've never played soccer." We were just like standing in front of the goal. He was like, "I don't want to get hit in the face with balls." He was like, "I don't want to get hit in the face, man. They're going to kick it really hard." And me and them were like, "Don't worry." I was like, I'm a right wing. And Nim was like, "I got you." And we won, America. You know what I'm talking about?
I can't remember that.
Because they never passed the ball to me.
Yeah, we never hit the gym. We were like, just stay put. We're going to win the game.
Oh, fantastic! I think what we experience is that we have all these different trips that we made as part of this exchange. Now they all come together as one big experience, but what I found interesting is that on that first experience in '93, then I remember, and we must mention that because it's very important that no such venture that we did at that time works without a wonderful network of friends and people who like to collaborate and work together. So as any of you guys work together in a group, and Max and his friends had the Freundeskreis later on, we as organizers had a fantastic team that grew together as we were organizing these things. So there was, you probably remember Sibylle Rau-Pfeiffer of the Cumulus Kulturbüro at the Jugendhaus. She was basically caring and curating and providing opportunities for the kids at the youth center. And then there was Martin Kilgus at the South German Radio who contributed. And of course, Nancy Levido on the San Francisco side, who is a buddy of my student time at Berkeley. And she was very instrumental in the first place to bring AK and Leonard Pitt together with me in making that very first trip possible. So without these people, and the nice thing is they are all logged in today and witnessing our exchange.
Thank you.
And it's so wonderful. We have all to thank and applaud because in a way it's a really strong network that makes things possible. And when we keep that in mind, I think that is something also we should look at when we later come to the question, what can the future have in store for all of us? And what can we all desire? But before that, I wanted to go to the point and ask Max, because then the people at the youth center, they were saying to Sibylle, I remember, Sibylle, don't you think we can go and visit AK and Rico and the others, and can we go to San Francisco and take a look? And so there was, Max, can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I think like in '93 when, you know, AK and Rico and everyone came along, there were discussions on, you know, planning a new exchange for '94 where they would come again. And within that, you know, we thought, okay, it'd be a great idea if we could you know, like in exchange, go to the Bay Area and see, you know, what it's like there, and what, you know, what their lives look like, and, you know, what the scene over there looks like. And I think we pushed pretty hard. In Sibylle, we found like really, we used to call her the mother of the Kolchose, of the clique, because she was so helpful and so supportive all the years, like, and really, you know, supplying opportunities for us. I ended up as an intern there in 1994 for 1.5 years, because this was basically like she provided the office for the whole Kolchose clique. And yeah, I think that's when it started, like really to you know, to shape, when we said we would like to do it, and she thought it was a great idea. And then she talked to Kirkus from SWR, she talked to you, obviously, and you found sponsors and all that, and it really sort of took up off. And I never thought of it until I, you know, became a musician, and I started to really realize what it means, like what the back office is doing for, you know, for musicians in order to get things on stage, or, you know, get things moving. So yeah, we all have to be really appreciative of like the hard work that has been done, and of the vision, like really saying, okay, there's two young hip hop crews from, like, you know, two sides of the Atlantic. Let's try and really build something.
So what happened then when in 1994 you went to San Francisco and the Bay Area? Aside from meeting the mayor of San Francisco, you had concerts and other things. And AK, you were involved in Rico Adisa. You had concert opportunities. You went to they went to the radio station, and maybe you can tell us a few anecdotes. And then what happened after that? What was the result when you got back to Germany, and after all these encounters of having been to Germany for you guys, and just give us a little bit of insight into that. Maybe Max, you can start.
Yeah, maybe it's interesting to hear, like, you know, the other guys before, because before we went to San Francisco, they would come to Stuttgart, and we had 2 weeks together there doing shows and workshops and stuff, and then we all together we flew to San Francisco and had like the 2 weeks there. So I think the whole experience starts with, you know, Echo Rap coming to Stuttgart again. Maybe they want to talk us through that a bit.
Yeah, AK, do you want to start? When I remember there was a festival at Schillerplatz, you know, a hip hop open. Is that?
Yeah, the Schillerplatz. Wow, that was fantastic, because you mentioned earlier that the first event that we went to in Germany, there were just a handful of people. But as I can remember, at the Schillerplatz, it was like, man, it looked like it was a full-blown concert. It was
packed. I couldn't believe the crowd. That's the biggest crowd I ever performed in. Straight up.
That was same here, brother.
Straight
up.
Here. That was like same here. Lightweight Lollapalooza kind of vibe, like lots of people. You know,
it was packed. I mean, they took us seriously, and I remember, I especially remember Rico, one of the songs that Rico did at the Schillerplatz. You were at the Schillerplatz as well, correct? I remember one show that Rico was at with us, and when he came out and he started out with a smooth groove, and then he just busted out on the rhyme, man, and the crowd went berserk. You know, I remember at the end of his performance, they were like, "No, to Prophet, you know, go Prophet." Because he was in the Rage, I believe, was the name of his crew at the time. And I was sitting back loud, I'm watching the crowd, and I'm like, man, look at the appreciation that these folks have for real, genuine hip hop. It just blew my mind, because I kind of expected it to be similar to what we had done before. It was new for everyone, you know, going out to Germany and kind of getting a feel. But when we went to the Schillerplatz, in fact, I have news clippings of some of the stuff that we did there. I was absolutely blown away. That was, like Adisa just said, that was probably the biggest hip hop concert that you know, I've been to and actually performed in. You know, Adisa and I met Adisa in the studio, and we did a lot of things in the Bay Area. And Rico and I probably did some things after the initial Eco Rap. But when we did the concert at Schillerplatz, man, that blew me away. You know, that was like like, wow, this was absolutely all worth, all the effort that we put into making this happen. That was great, man. That was great.
You know what I remember from that is when we did that first thing, when all the people were there, we did the show, and remember, it was hot. Like I said, when we got there, it was very hot, and I didn't expect the humidity. And what ended up happening was, at the end of, so we did all our group performances as Americans, and the German MCs did their thing, and then we kind of had this freestyle thing going, right? And as the freestyle thing was going around, remember there was that one girl who came with us, Amma was doing her freestyle thing, right? She was doing her freestyle thing. There was this dude from Chicago, I forget his name, but he was doing his thing, and everybody was doing it, and it was nighttime because it started when the sun was up. Now it's nighttime. At the end of everybody's freestyle cypher session, all of a sudden, like, thunder and lightning started happening, and we wouldn't get off the stage. And they were like, all right, y'all got to get off. And we're still holding the mic stands. Like, we could have got killed. We're being totally ridiculous. And eventually, like, the storm shut the show down. And I thought that was the best ending to a show. That it would take a thunderstorm to stop the cypher was just like the best thing. That was the best. We were all drenched, but no one cared. And it was beautiful. And the crowd loved it. And we were welcome. It was fantastic.
Well, Max,
it was lovely. Yeah, I mean, for me too, being from Stuttgart, it was just crazy. I mean, this was like one of the, big squares in Stuttgart. And I walked, and skated around that square, all my life before. And just being there and being able to stand there with this, magnificent musicians and crew. And like, I just say this was really initial to me as well as the trip, like really thinking of making music as a professional, because it felt that way. It felt like we were these musicians, these stars already. I mean, the crowd was tremendous, and so it really shaped my idea of what it could be like to make this for a living, and to really approaching and chasing that dream.
Yeah, and thank you, Max. And you, Rico, you were also young, and was that for you also a decision to continue? I remember you started with a group called the Prophets of Rage, right? And then just recently, this year, you came out with a new album, and you make a reference basically to that title, Prophets of Rage. Never mind the title. I think is that the title of your new album. So what was happening in between from your Stuttgart experience up to the album? Never mind the title.
Oh, so much. The very short version is I never stopped making music. Definitely the trip to Germany most definitely solidified in my mind that I could do, I've always believed in what I was doing, and decided a long time ago that this is what I was going to do, regardless of how it's received, because it's, for me, music is more like a form of prayer, like a healing process that I'm constantly doing. So that was never a doubt in my mind. But seeing that the appreciation that the folks over there had for the art, the lyrical aspect of it, really, it made me feel like, oh, you can keep on doing the type of music that you want to do. I didn't ever feel like I had to sell myself short, after that. So I had I put out many albums. I ventured off into different genres. I had a big 10-piece band for a while, and did many shows, many great concerts. And somewhere in there, I opened a restaurant, because I'm also a chef. So I opened a restaurant and did that for a few years, and just couldn't stop making music even when I tried. Even when I was too busy to really do anything, it kept calling me. So I sold the restaurant, and I'm still here doing music. And that's never stopped. I feel like for most artists, You know, these artists here, for most artists, it's not, we hope to be able to make a living doing it, but I feel like the most of the artists I know don't feel like it's a choice. It's a calling.
Yeah.
It's what you're gonna do, whether only you hear your songs or whether, you know, thousands of people or millions of people hear it. So yeah, I feel like I've been blessed, and the Germany tours, and especially the toxic tours that till this very day I still talk about environmental issues. Of course, beyond the things that we deal with in the inner cities, like police brutality and racism and all that, I still deal with the destruction of the natural environment. That's always been. I feel like without the toxic tours, it wouldn't have cemented itself there. Yeah, not much. I still feel 19 in many ways. Just these grays fool me. But I feel like I'm still doing so many of the same things that I did back then, which I feel is such a blessing,
So for Adisa, for you, what happened in between your Stuttgart experience and today?
A lot, really. I continue to be a journalist. I wrote several books on hip hop, the most recent being Bobby Bruce in the Bronx, The Secrets of Hip Hop Chess, which is available on Amazon, but it's for free again on my blog, hiphopchess.blogspot.com. I started doing museum curation. Like I said, I curated an exhibit at the World Chess Hall of Fame called Living Like Kings. Then in 2018 did Respect, Hip Hop, Style, and Wisdom. I'm working on another book on hip hop right now called A Dead Man's Diary. I'm actually in the process of finishing that like in the next month or so. And I never stopped writing about hip hop. I never stopped loving hip hop. And so, you know, I've always had, you know, the Hip Hop Chess Federation I did for the last 15 years. I'm getting ready to pivot and do a whole new thing because I really believe that the world needs more intercultural communication. The world needs more of a way to appreciate their nationalism, right? I think nationalism is important because that's how we learn about each other. But, you know, at the time and the place where nationalism and your culture becomes toxic is where we need to like reinvestigate ourselves and our purpose as a people, whoever we are. And so, you know, that's really kind of what I've been working on lately. I'm actually, you know, I want to teach hip hop at a college, at a university level, but I want to do it internationally. I don't want to do it inside of America. So, you know, whether that's in the UK or Germany.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? Or
okay,
Germany,
here we are. It's the first point.
You know
First point for our future visionary aspect.
Yeah.
And let me just turn to AK. And AK, what was happening for you after your Stuttgart experience and today?
Well, to be honest, when I got into music, what got me into music was some personal negative experiences that I had. And then from there, and this is a short version, I had an opportunity to speak at quite a few juvenile facilities and speak on what had gone on in my life and how I turned it around. Bodybuilding being my first love, but just to kind of show youth that you can do something else with your life. You don't have to be stuck between walls. I'd speak sometimes and it got boring to the youth. So I started writing all of my experiences in music. And so that's what actually brought me into writing music and lyrics. And then from there, had an opportunity to perform and so on and so forth. But since then, I've opened up a fitness center, right? I've still would do music if I had the opportunity. This is my first kind of call back, you know, hearing from you all from Germany. But I opened up a fitness center 24 years ago. Whoa. So, which is where I'm speaking from as we speak right now. And so we have classes that deal with you know, youth. We have boxing classes, weight training classes, and everything that's dealing with fitness. But there's also hip hop health and fitness, right? And the first level of fitness is your mental fitness. So, you know, what you eat and, you know, what you drink and how you take care of yourself, those are also, I look at as forms of hip hop or forms of, you know, just environmental issues. You know, your first environment is yourself, you know, so opening up a fitness center has allowed me to express that without being preachy or you know, and again, giving me venues to just expand what I love to do. So bodybuilding is my first love. Music is a close second. So,
fantastic. Thanks, AK. And Max, for you, then a career in music started after that. You just said it was the confirmation of what you had felt before, that you can make art and music a profession for yourself. And now you've just released last year your last album, Athens, but before that there was a whole development of things. Can you tell us a little bit about that, about Freundeskreis and
yeah, maybe it's interesting for the guys, because two of the participants, Don Felipe and DJ Friction, they were part of my crew when we were playing together.
Yeah.
And actually we formed in order to have a group that could, you know, participate in that, you know, in that thing. So DJ Friction had been around already as a DJ. We had done some work. Don Felipe was sort of like, you know, a mentor to a lot of us, because he was 13 years older and he had a studio and he knew a lot about production. But out of, you know, what you then knew as Maxwell, and we called the group Agit Jazz in, you know,
yes, I remember that.
agitation and jazz. So to say, we formed a group called the Circle of Friends. Like, and that group really, like, you know, brought us the first record deals, and we made records like until 2000. And then, and it was kind of like it was like a gold digging kind of times in Germany for hip hop. And there were like also the Massive Töne, who had already joined them, us, and then another friend of ours called Afrop. I don't know if you can recall him, like a German Eritrean guy who was part of the crew already, but he was 16 that time, so he couldn't travel with us. We all really had, you know, good times, and Stuttgart was sort of like one of the capitals for hip hop in Germany, and we all could like become musicians after that time, like starting from 96, 97 on, you know, releasing the first records. And so that's what we did for a couple of years, and then I went on in production. And then I started a solo career later on, and I'm still on that. So it's between production and for other people and doing my own stuff. And I've been really privileged to do it until now, and to have like you know. And the 90s were good for that, because people here seem to be very I say, once you have like a certain group of fans, they stick to you, and they really want to know how you develop and, you know, what comes next. So I'm really, really privileged to still being able to do it.
Well, fantastic. That brings us to the question. To the question: have you guys from San Francisco, have you met each other after the Stuttgart, San Francisco experience? Have you been in contact regularly, or is that kind of the first time after these years that we kind of get together again? AK?
I'm in contact with Adisa on a regular basis. You know, as I mentioned, I met Adisa. He was 16 and I was 26, and I went into a studio to do some recording, and that was my first time meeting Adisa. He's been hip hop artist as long as I can remember. I mean, Adisa is definitely the historian. I was online on YouTube and listening to some music, and I happened to see Rico pop up, and he was giving a small excerpt of one of his albums, or a piece from his album, and I heard him. I was like, man, this cat is just definitely has matured, and it's like I couldn't believe, you know, what he was still spitting in regards to his hip hop music. So since then, you know, I kept in contact with him. I got a copy of his album, which I haven't yet to listen to. By the stereo now. But when this opportunity to actually speak and reunite again came up, he was the first person I contacted to see if he would be able to be a part of this event that we're having right now. And then Adisa was the next person, and then a few other people I wasn't able to get in contact with, but definitely Adisa I've been in contact with pretty consistent. And from here on, I've been in contact with Rico as well.
Okay, fantastic. So let's come to let's round up the session because we want to give some time to our audience today to ask a few questions. And I see that the list is filling up that I get of questions. But before that, I really feel tickled to ask the question. Would you think it is realistic to think about meeting again, a unification meeting of the 94 group and having another concert together? Is that an option that you could imagine if we were to organize that?
Most definitely.
Sure. AK, what up with you, man?
Oh yeah.
Gotta come back.
I would sit right back down to the pen and paper. My wife, since I told her that I was going to be on this meeting, she says to me just this morning in the kitchen, she says, you know what, you should get back into your writing again. And I'm, baby, you know what, I'm so much involved in the gym or whatever the case. So what? She didn't want to hear that. She said, if nothing more than a form of just therapy, you should get back into writing again. So I'd have to say, yes, I'd give it a shot for sure. I'd give it a shot for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't hesitate. Actually, Rob Ski, the guy who DJ'd on both trips, he actually sent me 5 beats out of nowhere. He was like, you need to be writing. And he sent me like 5 beats. And I was like, I haven't really written anything in years, bro. He was like, you need to write. And then I just sent him a message. I was like, I wrote something. So like,
wow. How's he doing? Is he in New York? He was in New York.
He goes by DJ Rob Flow now. Yeah. You can find him on Instagram and on Facebook as DJ Rob Flow. He produces amazing tracks. He's done a lot of different stuff, and he lives in Florida now. And he's amazing. Rob is amazing. He's doing great. Yeah.
He was back then. He was the most professional, I guess, because he had done work with, I don't know, the Hieroglyphics or so before, or some Bay Area rappers that I recall. Yeah, he was amazing, man.
Yeah, he's still in the mix, man. He's a great producer. I'll make sure to reconnect you guys for sure.
Yeah, it's a pity because I was in San Francisco with my family 2 or 3 years ago. I was on sort of an exchange. I was in LA working for a organization that is into the water thing, like it's on providing water for people all over the world. As you know, it's like 2 billion people without like access to clean water in the world. So and we did a show with Aloe Black, who I've been known for a while, and a really good MC and very well known MC from Kenya called Osibiso.
Okay.
And we traveled up to San Francisco, and I was even like in the Mission District and going to places where we used to hang out. And I didn't know whether you guys were still there. So next time we should definitely connect, man.
For sure.
Okay, that means you address the issue to Christiane and Marion and Dr. Stegmann, that perhaps we can use the new partnership between Baden-Württemberg and California to think about a reunion of the matured rap and hip hop scene of Stuttgart and the Bay Area that has spread out now. But Rico and AK, you still live in the Bay Area, as I take it. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do too. I still live in the Bay. I'm just in London right now.
Okay.
I'm just finishing my book out here, but yeah, I still live in the Bay.
Mm-hmm. So there's also continuity. I see. There's continuity and a focusing on the lyrics and the rhymes. It's still important. The world needs good words and good rhymes. And one thing that is in a way kind of curious is that the organizers from back then in '93, we are now in our 60s. I don't know, AK, how old you are?
AK is still 35.
Forever 35.
Yeah. So, but you guys who were in your 20s at that time, now you are in your late 40s, maybe. And
Got a walker.
So, but what is it that you would think is of interest to the people who are now the age that you were in '93? So the kids, the boys and girls, the young men and women who are now in their 20s. Is there something where we can also have a transgenerational thing? Because, I think what you deal with rhymes and rhythm and movement and, mental health.
Exactly.
That's the most important thing, I think, in a world that's going crazy. Yeah. So I think it's time that we unite in a positive way of finding ways of expression. And you had mentioned Rico, I think, art as a measure of empowerment for people. So let's keep that up. And if you have ideas, please address them. Give us input, and then we can see if we can organize with you together. And now we're a good group of experienced people.
Well, you know what? When you first mentioned like redoing, like reconnecting, the initial thought that I had, and the only reason I shudder to think of it is because I think it would be expensive. But if each one of us picked one young artist, right, that has not been out of the country, like we had not been out of the country, and brought them with us to Germany to meet Max, and then Max and his crew go get young people who have also not left Germany, right? And then so like we can pass the baton on artistically.
Exactly.
Right. Like I think that would be good, when because like Jim, I've done a lot of work with the Hip Hop Chess Federation inside juvenile halls. In fact, one of the Hip Hop Chess Federation main schools is in a juvenile hall in St. Louis, right? And so I always tell the kids, I said, you cannot define who you are by your hood experience, because that's one small dot. If you get out of the hood, if you get out of the country, your mind will open up to much more of not just the potential of yourself, but the potential of the world. But if you define it by the blocks that you live on where people get shot and beat up, you won't understand your potential. So if we could do that, what I would like to do is bring someone young to Germany and get who's an artist and give them a chance. I think that's how we really pass the baton and help champion, the spirit.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I hear Marion in her office already writing that down as a good idea.
No, I think that's what Lisa
said. I just did that.
That's what Lisa said already. I think like the experience of traveling and, outside the box thinking. I think that's what's most important for young people, like as you said. And it was the same thing for me back then, like just, going to the Bay Area, like seeing, also the Toxic tours, I recall them. It was so impressive for me as well, like to see like, what communities are facing and also getting a deeper understanding of like, where this perspective comes from, like, what the circumstances are that produce certain lyrics, for instance. I think it's so profound to understanding, like the idea of hip hop and the opportunity that it has as a powerful tool in order to address, things and change things. So I think, traveling, getting to know other people, getting to know other perspectives, that's the thing. And if we could do that sort of a mentorship and everyone brings someone along. We were a pretty male group back then. I think also like there's a lot of fantastic female MCs nowadays.
And beat makers, yes.
And beat makers. And
let's not forget vocalists. Let's not forget vocalists.
Yeah.
So I think, it could be really interesting. And also for you guys to understand, Germany is way more diverse now. There's a way bigger, African diaspora here, Afro-European perspective that is like speaking loudly. And I mean, you can tell it from London, I guess, but also here in Germany. And I think that's so interesting as well. So I would love to do that. And I can think of
Yeah,
so
yeah.
many
I can
young,
already see a lot of
talented guys.
amazing stuff. You know, that could be cool.
Yeah,
No,
Mike, I was recalling my first, when we landed. First of all, the flight to Germany. You know, I was 19. It seemed like it took 5 days. It seemed like I thought we were never, ever gonna get. I had a dream on the airplane that there was a party, and I thought it was real. I woke up and I still had 10 more hours to go, and then same thing. I went with the expectation, the fear, more than expectation, of what I was gonna have was 6'4", blonde, blue-eyed Nazis. That's just, I guess you could say, as a testament to the education, you know, that we have here, right? And so we landed. I was motion sick, and the very first, as we drive into, I'm not sure where we drove into. We leaving the airport, and there's a giant billboard. It's just white with black letters, and it says "Die American," DIE, American. So I freaked out. I was like, "Wow, they brought me here to kill me." That's what they. And you know, of course, they told me it just meant the American. But talk about, you know, so that was my first 10 minutes in Germany. You know, it's like, let me start breaking down all the things you thought you knew immediately. So yeah, it would be so powerful to bring some young people, and now we would have video cameras, right? Like,
we could
how
capture
valuable,
better. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
if we could go back in time and see the 30 years ago what we were doing. So
we need Schillerplatz.
Now, when I went out, do you remember we did a song that was like some of the artists from both sides? Does anybody have that song?
We'll have to ask Sibylle. We have to ask.
Yeah, because that existed, man, and it had like, I think almost it was like a 15-minute song, like everybody just on the track. But you know what I'm saying? It was fun, man. It was fun.
Great. So AK, you would also be back with us and writing songs again, right?
Oh yeah. I know my fingers are kind of, you know, but I would definitely, you know, give
He's got it. Don't let him play you, man. Nobody listening to that. Get out of here.
You got to count me in. You got to count me in. Absolutely.
So on that happy note, Marianne took the idea, and if you have more ideas to come, please let's keep in touch. Write emails, and I would now like to open the floor to our audience, and I see there are questions, but please bear with me. I have to open my file, and I have to put on my reading glasses. So the first question is by Katarina, and she asks the question, or makes a statement. Hip hop is a pretty male-dominated field. We just had that. Your music is politically, socially conscious. Do you think that hip hop addresses issues such as gender equality and the Me Too movement, or what should it contribute?
Well, there's no limits, you know. There are no limits, you know. I think whatever we can come up with, let's put it out there. You know, I think that when eco rap first came about, that we had this mostly male interests. You know, I mean, of course we had Alma and MC Spice, but there were we couldn't get very many females involved in the movement. So
it was early too. It was early. I mean, there weren't a lot of women rappers, period. Right.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it. Things are different now. I just interviewed a trans woman DJ for my podcast. I know tons of different women DJs, MCs, etc. And I think the time has never been better for the feminine energy inside hip hop to be more pronounced. You know, so yeah, definitely. Katarina is right in her perception, but also know that the time is now for more women to step in and do every aspect of hip hop on a high level.
Rico, please go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think definitely times are changing, but right now, I think still the misogyny in hip hop is still full smash. So
Totally.
while on one end, there's more subject matter that hip hoppers feel open to talking about, because 20, 30 years ago, gender, sexuality, and things of that nature, it was just less. You just didn't find it. So now those things are starting to open up. The internet and what now, most of the dope MCs that I listen to happen to be
His mic.
Oh, Rico, your mic is off.
sort of gatekeepers that push. Yeah. So that's all.
Thank you, Rico. And AK, just on that note, because you mentioned Ama, MC Spice, are you still in touch with her? Do we know anything about her whereabouts?
I haven't. From the last I heard was that Ama, she got married, and so she has a different last name. I could always look her up and see if I can dig into the crates and somehow come in contact with her. MC Spice, I haven't spoken to since we did the concert, but same thing. I could look and see. The unfortunate thing is that women get married and they change their last names, and then that becomes that much of a challenge, But we can look into it, and I'll talk to Leonard Pitt. Leonard's always good. And if you're listening, Leonard, God bless you, and thank you for hooking everything up. Leonard's always good for doing research and helping us. He's the one who, in fact, helped me be a part of this forum right here. But I can ask him and see if he runs in contact with either of them, and and we can see how we can bring them back into the game too.
Sure, thanks, AK. Let's go to the next question. Next question is by Lena Nuding. Would you consider working together as musicians in the future after this reunion? Well, we kind of almost answered that question. Yes.
I think we have to.
We have to.
It'd be a crime not to. It'd be a crime.
We just came up with it, and I think that's if there's any chance to do this, bringing this idea to life, it'd be tremendous, I think. And actually, the '93 song was the first posse track I ever was on. I don't.
Yeah, that was
even know whether I had an idea of what a posse track would look like before that. So. There needs to be. Is this the return of the posse track? I guess.
That's right. That's right.
Well, that's a good title.
And when we used to have to actually travel to be in the studio together, and now I could send you a track, and we can collaborate like this.
That.
So
technology enables a lot. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Let's go to the next question. I think Katarina is a pretty busy question poser. She asks, you talked about the environmental problems in the neighborhoods you grew up in. Have those toxic circumstances changed over the past 25 plus years?
No. In fact, they've increased.
It's gotten much worse.
They've increased. At the beginning, we had the eco rap to just kind of stimulate our minds, to let us know what's going on within our communities. And then we traveled internationally just to get an experience of what's going on with outside of our communities. And, if you look at the recent issues that were going on with the George Floyd case, there were, a good handful of people that, police brutality and all that types of stuff continue to exist. I think that, people just kind of brushed it off. And the same thing as when eco rap was born, people thought that this is just as supposed to be. So I don't think that these issues have changed much at all. There are just more people that are conscious of it, but I don't think that there are more people that are really speaking on it and seeing what they can do about it,
Fantastic. So let's move on. We have another one asking questions. And so here, this one is hip hop has always been a way for young people to express themselves. Do you think the issues of the youth are similar to the things that you dealt with or felt the need to address as young men?
Unfortunately, yes. We could probably, all the songs we were writing, just like what Max was saying, the songs that we wrote 27 years ago, unfortunately, still ring true to this day. And that's not anything that we're proud of. We all wish that we could move on to other subject matter at this point and start doing maybe party songs and whatnot. But the issues are still there. So.
Yeah, I've done a lot of work in schools, with Hip Hop Chess Federation, and I can tell you that, violence in the hood is still a problem. Bad food in the hood, the kids not having good food to eat. I saw a lot of that, point blank, in San Francisco, in Oakland, in San Jose. A lot of the issues that of poverty and homelessness, it hasn't gone anywhere. Police brutality, like, I remember when NWA first came out with F the Police, people said that was out of pocket. Then Rodney King happened. And now all the way to George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, right? And all the other nameless and faceless people in North America who have been killed by police, it's still an issue. So, and in fact, I would argue that were it not for hip hop, America wouldn't have even taken half of these issues half as seriously as they have, which is still a trifle. Like it's nothing really. But the fact that hip hop exists, it's the gateway to the truth. You know what I mean? And so, like in the environmental thing, the people care about the environment, but the system is still resistant because it cuts into the money they make. And so I'm sure that's the case around the world.
Yeah, and I don't know what how it is over across the ocean over there, but if I were able to just take you on a 10-minute walk around the neighborhood, the number of tent cities, like now, living here, you expect to turn a corner and see a small, like shanty towns, shanty towns. And we're talking about Oakland, where there are multi-millionaires. This place is the most expensive place to live, and you can walk 7 minutes in any direction and you're coming across shanty towns. So the divide between the ultra wealthy and the extremely poor, there's more people that are falling into the extremely poor category. Unfortunately it's worse. And Adisa, you're right. Thank God for hip hop. Because hip hop, hip hop has always been the megaphone. It's the megaphone. Never
had these conversations, man.
Exactly.
We would have never heard each other.
That's right. CNN won't talk about it, so the MCs do.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys.
Yeah, that's what Chuck D said. The CNN of the streets. I mean, I think we are just what everybody else said before. For me, it's like, it seems like all the problems that we addressed back then are even more visible now. And thanks to hip hop, as everyone said, now we have, learned that, we sort of have a voice and we can communicate and we can sort of like come together. But the enemies we address are still powerful. So I think using hip hop and being activistic with it is still very important today. And I'm glad that there is. It's sad, but I'm glad as well that there is a young generation of people really. I mean, if you think of people like Kendrick or Cole or who really carry that torch of conscious music also here in Germany. And I think it's very important, and got to keep up like the good work.
Okay, I have good news for all of us. First of all, Leonard Pitt is a registered listener in our audience. Hey, and he says hello to all of you.
Leonard.
And then we have a second guest. It's DJ Friction. He just called and says, unbelievable. Greetings to all of you. And he did record that song that you just mentioned. He has it. It's there. It's available. And we have to talk about how to make it available. And he reminded me that when you were in San Francisco on the San Francisco tour, you also had a song recorded, but he doesn't know who has it because there was, I don't know if it was
Jim. Who recorded that? Did Rob record that?
What's the name of the song? It's the same song?
Well, if DJ Friction is still online, if he remembers, or Max, if you remember, but let's see. Then we can. But you could investigate.
And
AK.
I'll ask Rob.
Oh, you ask Rob, Edisa.
Yeah, I'll ask
Great.
Rob for sure.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So we have that. And let me just go back to our questions. There is Max has a question. AK, in the beginning, you talked about eco-rap being about bringing attention to social and environmental issues, which are still issues today. Isn't it frustrating that there has been so little progress? Also thinking about tracks like Advanced Chemistries, Fremd im eigenen Land, which is a German title, meaning feeling alien in your own country, a slogan that's now being used, or better, abused by the AfD, which is sort of the right-wing party in German parliaments, basically the camouflage of right-wing extremists. They have a right-wing extremist wing that is now under observation by the State Security Service.
Interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, but that is an issue, because the abuse of certain words and terminology that's being used for extremist issues on the right-wing side, that is an issue here in Germany. You have other issues probably in the United States. I don't know if that's something that you experience, that that words, terminology that you use in the hip hop community, that is used by adversaries in.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that, just in a nutshell, we need to organize an international hip hop, how can I say,
a caucus?
A toxic tour.
Okay, yes.
That would be good.
We need to organize an international hip hop toxic tour to address more of the issues that are going on now. Because keep in mind that when we were there, some 30 something years ago, a lot of the kids that are experiencing things now, they were just babies.
Yep.
They were being sheltered by telling things right at that point, and they don't, since that time, it's been kind of like shadowed over, and almost accepted. So if we were to create another toxic tour before we got into this the second international change, I think that would be a really good idea to bring everyone up to date of what's going on and what the important issues are that we need to focus in on. So,
I think on that topic of words, it's really deep because, as African Americans, with English not being our native language and the way that we manipulate it, it could be argued that rap itself is a response, right, to white supremacy, right? Like the way that we change words, right? But, if you look at, right, if we say Black Lives Matter, they will say all lives matter. And so there will always be like a hijacking of language.
Exactly.
This is why it's important to remember, in sociology, they say that, in the beginning of hip hop, people would say, oh, that's not really art, that's not really music, etc. Right. And so the idea, and that but the key thing was that it was an ignorant art form. Right. But what sociologists, any real sociologist will tell you is that all oral societies become literate societies. Right. And that's why at the beginning of hip hop, everybody said it wasn't art, it wasn't music, it wasn't intelligent. And now look at this wave of hip hop scholarship, of hip hop education, of books by Jay-Z, by 50 Cent, by Wu-Tang Clan, by Eminem. Right. All these people are writing books, and it's because we gave birth to a new wave of intelligence. And so this war of words will always exist. And that's why we just have to be the winners, right? Yeah. Because we will be the peacemakers, the liberators.
Absolutely. I think it's a problem, and I'm aware of the problem. And you have to understand that it's, young people are looking out, for sort of like a compass, like, what they can think and whatnot. And this is something that people know and use. And hip hop is very attractive for young people. So of course, there's people who undermine, the idea of hip hop in order to get there, to get access to young minds. And we have to really be aware and really speak out on these issues. especially with the right wing right now. And always tell the people that hip hop can never be exclusive, can never be exclude anyone. It's always, it always has an international perspective, and it always has a perspective. And it also always goes back like to the struggle of, African American, people, and to the civil rights movement and all these movements that, fought a fight using, arts, using language. And it goes back to, jazz, not to Nina Simone and all these people, and to understanding, that from where it comes from and trace it back to that. Then you cannot, it cannot be misunderstood or be taken for something else. And then it cannot be sort of taken away by right-wing people, by people who really stand on the other side of these issues, to say, no, we are not, we're not an inclusive society. We're exclusive society. And so it's very important to trace, for young people to understand the history of hip hop, where it's coming from, and also like the mindset and the struggle it's coming from, and to always like to really learn about it, and not just take it as some sort of a just an artistic form. But yeah, we had that problem. And funny enough, like that song you were talking about, Fremd im eigenen Land, Stranger in Your Own Country, this was by a group called Advanced Chemistry, like the first, like, Black German rap group, like who really addressed, like, racism in Germany. So it can never be taken by any, like, white supremacists or so. We really have to speak out on that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. And I can now proudly announce that Martin Welzer, also known as DJ Friction, has joined the group and is part of our conversation. Hey, DJ Friction, welcome to the group. And but you can now tell us yourself what happened to the song that was recorded here in Stuttgart, and about the one recorded in San Francisco, so we can track that maybe. Martin, can someone activate Martin's microphone?
Seems like his mic is on, but I don't know.
His mic is on.
His mic is on. Martin, DJ Friction. Okay, he was in the Q&A if he doesn't answer.
Yeah, okay.
But he said, I remember it was recorded in a professional studio in San Francisco with all of us. I don't think we had a title or anything. And let me see, what else does he write? It is possible it wasn't really finished because we didn't have enough studio time.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
So
I'll still ask Rob. I'll see what's up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened to Martin, but anyway, so if he comes in and joins us later, that's fine. And I think we are drawing to the final minutes of our discussion that we will continue definitely at a later point. Then we have Max. Max has a question. He says, first of all, thank you very much. It's been a lot of fun to listen to you guys. I actually have a question for Thomas. Oh, how did you get the idea to organize that exchange? I guess hip hop wasn't really acknowledged as a proper art form back then. I think that really ties back to what you all said, that there was not enough respect for hip hop as a form of art. And so that is actually an interesting question. I really have to say, I was so surprised positively, because it was not part of my life at that time. And it was thanks to Leonard Pitt and Nancy Levido, who introduced me to eco rap, that I said, well, we must find a way of bringing that kind of American expression to Germany. So I was involved in the cultural exchange programs at the Amerikahaus, and I think, and I think that is really something to also take a note of. In order to get such a program financed, I had to write a proposal to the Secretary of State, the Department of State, and so apparently I was so convincing in making the move toward asking them to finance the first trip, that they really paid. They really paid for the flights and everything else, and so I think that's something maybe surprising to a lot of people who think, how can the American government fund a hip hop tour of youngsters, from Oakland? And they did.
That's unbelievable, man. Thank you.
Yeah, and it was then the next thing is there is publication by the Department of State and the public diplomacy called World USIA World, and I wrote an article that I submitted. But since there are so many diplomatic posts all over the world, they pick what they think is interesting, and it's seldom that you really get published after you've written something. And they picked it and posted it in a very prominent way. And you can, if you type it into your Google, you can still find reference to it.
What do we Google? What should we?
You just put in eco rap and Stuttgart, San Francisco, and you find USIA World. There will be there is a PDF of this article you can find in the National Library of Congress. I think they published it. So anyway, it was thanks to Leonard Pitt and Nancy Levidow, and I can't be happier to say that it was one of the best decisions to bring you to Stuttgart, and then to continue, because it's a ripple effect. After that experience, then we got many more people involved. We all thought it's a beautiful thing that was happening there, and continued with the exchange. So, and now 27 years later, there's a chance to do, what is it, a 2.0 or 3.0 of that exchange. And maybe if you unite spirits, we can do that. And so I will now close the Q&A and give you all the chance to make a last remark in this discussion before we then look forward to meeting again, maybe in person. And but even if we continue on the digital, in the digital media, the first thing we want to do is get Martin Welzer to find the song so that we can really listen again to that wonderful song. Maybe we can even get it published. It's probably a unique document.
Yeah.
So, so AK, what's your message after our reunion here today via Zoom?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Leonard Pitt and Nancy Levidow for just, making the whole eco-rap exchange possible at the beginning. None of us thought that it would bring us back to this conversation. I'd also like to thank yourself for, making this possible, and, everyone that's involved, Rico, Max, Adisa, everyone that's just making this possible right now. And even the opportunity to possibly do this again. I want to say thank you to all of the people that typed in their questions and were sincerely interested in finding out more about how we did it and what we thought of it and everything. Just thank you all for making this possible, and love you all. Peace and blessings to you, and hope that some of you out there listening can be a part of the next situation that we have going on. Really appreciate you.
Great, thank you, AK. Rico?
Yeah, thank you. This conversation it could continue for another hour or two, I imagine, with all the stories that we all have, and all the wonderful memories. So I'm most appreciative of that. And I just want to take 30 seconds to, I'm not sure if Max was in the car with us, but there was a moment that stands out that I think is valuable, especially if there are artists out there listening, because when it comes down to it, I don't remember if I made 2 cents when I was in Germany, because that wasn't a consideration. The moment that stands out is being in a van full of artists who English was their second language, and we were on our way to some show, going to some, I feel like we were driving through a forest or something, is how I remember it. And there was a Greek wedding happening at someone's house where they were breaking dishes outside of and the organizers pulled over to just let us check it out because it was something we had never seen before. And then a freestyle, and a kind of not necessarily a freestyle session, but a sort of a freestyle session broke out. And hearing all the German artists rap these old school tunes like, Bridge is Over, and, all these like 1986, 87, 88 old school joints with the strong German accents. And I'm wondering, like, do they even know what, do they know the that just always stayed in my mind, the power of music, even hip hop, which is so lyric driven, that something about the energy of it that just speaks to, all cultures and obviously, across generations. Now we know that hip hop is not just about this one generation. It is multi-generational. So, thank you so much just for bringing back all the wonderful memories, especially. It's good to see y'all.
Adisa.
Yeah, like my brothers just said, this was great. Thank you for having me out the first time. Thank you for having me back today. Again, this was an experience that made me a citizen of the world, and it took me actually a lot of different ways to understand the impact that the trip had. Every few years, every once in a while something will happen and I'll be like, oh, just like Stuttgart. Like, it really hit me like that. And also I bought a German soccer jersey at the time, and I just retired it because I wore it to death. And it was just like, I would not take it out. Literally like 6 months ago, I was like, I have to throw this out. I mean, the number came off. It was the shadow of the number on the back. It was ridiculous. And I was like, yo, man, I was like, you know what? You got to go back and get a new jersey in Germany. Like, because I refused to get another German jersey unless I went back to Germany. And so
Okay,
now,
let's do it.
Figure it out.
That's a plan.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you.
Let's go shopping.
So Max, what's your closing word?
Yeah, I'm so thankful for this, actually, and seeing you guys again after all these years, and just bringing back these memories, and also like feeling the impact of this times that we had together, and really like thinking of that time back then, of course, to you guys, Thomas and Sibylle and all the Nancy and Leonard, of course, like having the vision of like really allowing us this experience, but especially like to you guys, like when we were in San Francisco, just like the way you just showed us around, and really we felt like we could be a part of like what you guys are living and experiencing, and it felt so natural and it felt so good. We felt so welcomed, and it really opened a world to us, and gave us I can say like a everlasting experience of what this looks like over there on the other side, and I think it opened us so much to like to a lot of different ideas that are around in the world. And I've been doing a lot of traveling ever since, and I think this really was the essence of what meeting people from other sides of the Atlantic and other places and countries could look like. And that is always on an eye-to-eye level, and it's always about like finding a mutual place where you share experience and share perspective. So I'm really, till this day, I'm so thankful, and it's really lovely to see you guys again, see that you're well and doing what you're doing. I really appreciate that night.
Well, thank you all for that wonderful discussion. Time flew by, and I'm very appreciative of you all contributing, and it's such a wonderful spirit that we that I hope we can reunite in person at some point, and that the plans, and Adisa, thank you for having made this suggestion, and that we work on that plan and develop it further, and that we all can come back together with a mentoring group, and let's bring our hearts together and our words and our lyrics so that we can all be brothers of the world and make and try, as we always, the only thing we can try, we can hope, and we can try to make this place a better world. And the best start is if we do it ourselves in our small neighborhood that we are, with our families and with our friends. And so in that way, we also have a common spirit that we had before our meetings, and that we continue to have, and that we can carry on to other generations to make this world a better place, perhaps. And so now with this wonderful experience, I would like to turn the floor back to Marion at the German American Center to give us her greetings and whatever she has managed to organize in the past minutes. Thank you all. And Marion, back to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. You already said everything so wonderfully, and I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you, Thomas, for moderating this event, for making it possible, but also everyone of our guests who joined, for letting us be a part of your reunion. This was so interesting and refreshing, and I think I speak for a lot of people if I say that I could be here all night listening to your experiences. And if I understand everyone correctly, I may have just also won a new project. So I took a lot of notes, and we will have time to discuss it. But to all of our guests at home, thank you so much for joining us. And please, if you have the time, our next event in the series will focus on the environment, and it's going to be organized by the DAI in Tübingen. It will take place on January 14th, and all of the login information can be found on our website as well. But for now, I just want to say thank you everyone so much for joining and for making this possible. And have a good evening or day wherever you are, and Merry Christmas.